Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of the Fantasy Football Expo podcast series. And man, what a guest I have tonight. The one, the only Jim Coventry, RotoWire. Jim. We're going to talk about some past year, you, me, Expo, Kings Classic, all kinds of great stuff. Welcome to the show. Honored to have you, brother. How you been?
Just always excited to be here to hang out with you, to talk Expo, to talk football, but the visionary Bob Long, just the fact that you've put people together, it never gets old. It only gets better. So thank you for all you do, and thank you for having me on.
Yeah, no, pleasure. So, Jim, in this series, I always ask the people how they got started. What was the year that got you involved? Who got you involved in fantasy football? Some are 4 or 5 years ago, some are 40 years ago, like me. I'm sure you're in between there, but talk about your initial jaunt into the what we know as fantasy football.
Yeah, I only have 30 years playing. You sound like you have me beat pretty well. But we were like using the newspaper, the USA Today for box scores, doing everything by paper, faxing lineups to people or making phone calls with them to verify lineups. Oh my gosh. But that's back in 94. Yeah. The internet was around, but it was infancy and there wasn't really a lot to count on. But so it was nice because the third year I played fantasy football in 96, there was a national challenge. It was done by like the Baseball and Football Digest magazines. Mm-hmm. And it was this contest where you paid $15 and the grand prize was $5,000. Second place, a TV. Thought that was hilarious. But it's one of these where you had categories of players. You take one player from each category and you were allowed X amount of lineup changes for the season. Within that bracket of 5 players, it might have been Jerry Rice, Brett Favre, the top players. And you could, change out limited numbers. That was done by telephone. You had to phone it in.
I was just going to ask him, how did you make the changes? Did you mail it in an envelope?
Yes, it was phone changes. How crazy is that? And every week you could call and they would have like a listing of the top 10 people. They'd list their name and how many points they had. Crazy enough, Bob, it was almost wire to wire that I won this thing. I fell out around week 12. And it was stunning because the end of the season, it worked out that year was like Christmas Eve. That was like the last game of when they ended the season. Sure. And so on Christmas Eve, making the phone call and then hearing my name as first place. And it was like, wow.
Wow, and you won to $5,000.
Yeah, right. $15 investment, $5,000. And I'm not a big stakes player. Never have been.
Well, $15. Yeah, right.
Yeah, that was a big deal winning that. But then, so it was kind of cool. No, wow, I might be decent at this thing to be able to, win something. So you get a little confidence there. Mm-hmm. Well, anyway, flash forward about 10 years. I meet the woman who's my wife now, and she realized I watch football all day on Sundays. And that's not going to work. And so he goes, well, you have to make some money doing this. Now, understand I was a school teacher for 33 years. I'm retired. But so it was like, you have to do something with this. So, think about it. We go to Barnes & Noble to look at the football magazines to get contact information of some of these companies, like addresses or names. And then you'll go to the very back page and you find this stuff. And so obviously football magazines aren't around except for Bob Lung's magazine. There aren't too many left anymore. So it's great. You're still doing that great work. But anyway, it was like looking for a place to work. And so what happened was actually for 1 year, I reached out to John Hansen at the time Fantasy Guru. And I said, look, I can write. I'm an English teacher. I have a little skill with this. I won this challenge. And I go, for the first year, I would write for you for free, if kind of an unpaid internship. And he was great with it. John let me write for him, and it was fantastic. End of the year, I was hoping to get on with them for work. And so I sent an email asking John if I could join up. Doesn't get back to me. About 3 months pass or whatever. But I found out they were merging with Fantasy Guru was merging with Football Injuries, Adam Kaplan. So I figured, they must be covered. So I start reaching out to other places. So Lenny Papano of Draft Sharks takes me on. So I spent 8 years working there, and that was a fantastic opportunity. Jared Smola there, Matt Shelf there for a wonderful dude.
Davenport started there too, right?
You're right. You're right. I think it was IDP Sharks. Sharks.
Okay. Well, no, I think. Well, I don't know. Okay. Maybe
anyway, yeah, maybe so, because Gary's been around a little longer than I have, so there's definitely that. So yeah, there's no doubt. But anyway, so that was a great run with them, and then it was like the work kind of shifted. I didn't have the same amount of work, and I thought to myself, I go, well, they're probably doing great here. They probably don't need me as much as they did. And at that point, I reached out to RotoWire, and it could not have been a bigger blessing. So RotoWire, they allow me to come in. I was so excited about that. And I went to Vegas with the RotoWire guys. I was remote. The office is in Madison, Wisconsin. But I went to the meeting. I mean, I should say the Vegas trip. And I was glad I did, because we're working remotely. Nobody really knows you. They know your work. They don't know you. Right. And so I was talking to DJ Trainer, who's our media guy. And I said, it would be great if we kind of ramped up our podcast content a little bit. And he goes, I got something better for you. I got an opening on Sundays on XM. You got to be kidding me. So RotoWire is a blessing. XM was the biggest blessing that RotoWire gave me, because the exposure you get from that. And so that's where I've been now. I've been since 16. I've been with RotoWire. I think it's 9 years. So I think it's 17 years in the industry. So that's me.
That's a great story. Love that. Love, just going through that transition and like you said, going out there and just, working hard and making the connections. And that's what it's all about in today's world too. You chat on Twitter, you can see people's stuff on Twitter, email, blah, blah, blah. But, how many times at the expo have we heard about people getting jobs? I mean, Lawrence Jackson's still our poster boy for it. But it's happened more than just that. And so great how that worked out well for you. So Jim, talk about now, you've been at RotoWire. RotoWire, has been around for quite a while as well. But talk about when we kind of got together. I created this little thing in Canton, Ohio in 2018, not the expo. This was kind of the start of Expo weekend, and that was the King's Classic. And it was interesting when I didn't come up with the idea. A couple years before that, my good friend, you probably know Jake Seeley as well, created the Flex, the Fantasy League of Experts, and he started those drafts. And they were cool. And if you could go to New York, but that wasn't always a thing. But even that, as much as Jake tried to get everybody there, it was a little bit more difficult. But in my head, where I came up with the idea is that I've also played fantasy baseball for a number of years. And when I started my consistency stuff, I was hanging out with guys like Lar Michaels from Creative Sports Fantasy, and, other baseball guys. And, I always like, man, the Tout Wars and the Labor were doing these cool drafts in New York and all over the country. And so 2018, I'm listening to them on SiriusXM in February or whatever it was, February or March, and they're drafting the Staten Island AAA Yankees clubhouse. They've got their names on they're talking about how they got all of their names are on the lockers. And I'm like, this is such a cool thing. And that's when I sent the email to Mike Clay. And I said, Mike, I know, we've known each other a little bit now. And I said, here's my idea. Why don't we do something like Tout Wars in that, but for football, and let's have the best of the best, but let's draft in Canton, Ohio, in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And he goes, you're going to love this. And he sends me an email that had been sent literally a week before that from Brad Evans that said, hey, Mike, we should have a best of best contest. We just need a cool place to hold it. That was his exact message to Mike. And I go, I got your place. And so I reached out. So we all emailed together and got together on Twitter on a DM, and they all loved the idea. And I said, well, if you get SiriusXM to be there, I'll set it all up. I'll take care of everything in Canton. And as they say, the rest is history. And you've been there since day one as well. Talk about when you heard about this and what your thoughts were, and then what were your thoughts after we had our first draft? Because I know what my thoughts were.
Oh, wow. Yeah, this is a wonderful subject to touch on. So it's funny because RotoWire reaches out to me and they're like, Jim, we'd like you to represent us. And they explained what the King's Classic was, as you had told them. And it was this draft among, the best of the best. And it was at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Could not be more excited. But then I thought to myself, why are they sending me? And then I figured to myself, you know what? Jeff Erickson probably doesn't want to leave LA. He probably doesn't want to go from there.
He's a baseball guy. I mean, he likes, I'm sure he plays football, but Jeff's always been a baseball guy to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So Jeff probably didn't want to go. And then Chris Liss, I don't know I don't think he was in Lisbon yet. But Chris probably didn't want to make the trek either. He may have been in Lisbon by that point.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, that's obviously Portugal. So that said, that goes back, I think, to me with those Vegas trips, that I think what they learned is, yeah, I know football a little bit, but I get along with people. And I think when you're sending somebody to the King's Classic, I think you're also sending an ambassador. And I really feel like they sent me as much for football as they sent me to be an ambassador for the company, knowing that I would talk to everybody. I would, make people feel welcome and just be part of the deal. So I think that's ultimately why they sent me. But yes. So as we get there, and like you're saying, so we're at the Hall of Fame. It's 24 people. There's 2 drafts of 12, and you're standing with these people. And, I'm really, even though I've been in the industry at this point, probably 10 years, I'm still on the up. I'm still like not really known by a lot of people at this point. Right. I was on XM since 17, which was a year early, but it was only one day a week, and it was in the preseason. So it wasn't much. And it was seeing the people who were there. And if I say one name, I'm going to forget more. So I'm just not going to say any. But to see all these heavyweights there, and it's like, I'm drafting with these heavyweights. And you get this imposter syndrome. You're like, man, what am I doing here? But what I will say is, though, go ahead.
I was going to say, what I always said is the only reason I was in that draft is because I put it on. I don't know if anybody would have invited me.
Oh, no, it doesn't matter, right? Cool. Same with me.
Cool, but I felt 10 times less, what's the word I'm looking for? Less worthy. Like I was literally like in my head doing Wayne's World, like I'm not worthy because here's Brad Evans, Andy Behrens, Dave Richards, Jeff, shit.
See, that's why I'm not saying names. And they've changed over the years too. We haven't got the new people in.
But still, it was
Bob Harris,
the big boys. But
but
so anyway, go ahead.
So the beauty of it really was this. I always say when people ask me now, and they try to make a big deal. I'm like, I'm a dude with a job. That's all I am. I'm a dude with a job, just like everybody else. It's my job. I happen to do something that maybe a few more people like, but again, I'm nothing better than anybody else. I just have a job. And when I met these people, they didn't say that, but they acted that way. It was mostly it was a very humble crowd. They were good human beings. They would smile with you, laugh with you, talk as if they knew you. There was none. It didn't feel like there was like, oh, well, you're just, Jim from RotoWire. It was nope. Everybody was welcoming, and we had the luxury. You set this all up with the 24 people. Obviously, we're in the hall, but also the night before we were out at a venue eating some dinner. The night after the draft, we were at Buffalo Wild Wings, and so it was a great opportunity to connect with 23 other people because that's the whole size of it. And and so leaving there was a surreal feeling. Drafted in the Hall of Fame. That one. I mean, it was never on the bucket list because I never thought that would have been an option, but it certainly would have been. But to walk out and feel camaraderie and kinship with these wonderful people in the fantasy industry, I think that is my lasting takeaway from the beginning days of it.
I don't know if you remember this, but this one always sits in my head was we were the number 5 trending hashtag on Twitter for that time period when we were there. Like hashtag Kings Classic, when SiriusXM was doing the live draft, like we were only behind that Josh Gordon announcement was playing again or something. It wasn't for Josh Gordon. We may have been number 1. But that was just amazing to me because here was something that was brand new. But it obviously caught fire that day on Twitter. It caught fire on SiriusXM. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, listen who's in this lineup, and it's like Radcliffe, and they're just naming them off, and it's like, oh shit, this is kind of a big deal today. So that was something that always resonated with me, and I don't know if everybody knew that, but I remember screenshotting it and sending it to posting it like, we're at number 5 trending that day. But yeah, it was very cool. And like you said, I was really nervous and scared because I didn't get to hang out with anybody on Friday. I just kind of got there. But then Saturday night, that all just, like you said, it dropped off because it was like, oh my gosh, these people were all talking to me as if I belong. Not, yeah, okay, I put it on, but they're all like, yeah, Bob, thanks for doing this. And man, I really liked your draft and I liked who you picked here. And I'm like, really? Oh, okay. Because I'm even, felt further down the totem pole at that point because I'd only, I've been around for a long time. I've never been in any of the bigger sites,
right.
And have that background. But yeah, it's been great stuff. And now we're, heading into 2024. We've got 7 different drafts. I think that's one of the things that really excites me is now we have a Queen's Classic, an IDP, a Dynasty, a college. Of course, we have 3 different leagues, including half international. That's what makes it kind of fun to me is now it's a worldwide thing. Just, not in the retrospect of, Scott Fishbowl, but from a international standpoint, we're going across the seas, which is really cool as well. So Jim, now let's talk about, the Expo. You've been to that. We started that 2019, kind of combined King's Classic weekend and then added in this little Expo thing. So you were there the first year, right? 2019. Talk about that little thing, that little event compared to, where we're at and how it's going now.
It's funny. It's like the movie Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. But when it first starts, you're right. I mean, there were very, very few people because
75 people.
Right. And so, but it was funny because when I was talking with Bob Harris and others, they all understood it was building something. Right. And so there was excitement there. It didn't matter that there was a small number of people because it was very apparent that this is something that was going to become a very big deal. And, I'll use the word consistency with you, the consistency that you've shown and the leadership throughout and just always moving it forward, adding to it. Right. It never stays static. There's always something new and exciting beyond what was exciting at the prior time. And so it was very apparent, despite the 75 people, that this would become a major deal. And COVID certainly, probably slowed things.
Said, yes. Hold on a minute. We're going to stop that idea.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. COVID stopped a few ideas, but you see, it didn't win. Because
it didn't. Everybody wanted out of the house in 2021. That's for sure.
And that's when they blew up, right? It was 21 was kind of blew up.
21. We had 500 people show up. So, so within 3 years we were at 10x. We're still kind of hovering there. I think this year we might finally pass that 750 mark. We're certainly heading that way. But like you said, I think the best part, and you can speak to this as well as somebody who has been there now every year, just talk about how while it's grown, I feel like the family, the camaraderie, the fellowship has actually gotten tighter, even though we have more people.
The thing is, and this goes back to a King's Classic day in 2018 when there were 24 of us, as I mentioned, how everybody is welcomed in. Mm-hmm. It's the same way with 750 people. Right. Nobody is treated as, oh, you're less because of this, that, or no.
Or you're higher because you are, Howard Bender. But
doesn't
Howard
exist.
Bender treats you like you're his best friend, whether you've been playing 1 year or 30 years.
And that's the beauty of it. So it's always about bringing people together. Football, we love football, we love fantasy football, but ultimately it's people. And as this community grows, people realize, the majority of people realize what's important. Oh, certainly there will be maybe an occasional person that doesn't get it. They get it quickly, though, because when you go and you feel immediately welcomed and they want to talk to as many people as possible, it becomes exciting and it's infectious because then the other people who at first may have lacked a little confidence, they gain that confidence quickly, and they're maybe their second year there, and they're welcoming the people that are coming for their first time the following year. So it's really like chain reaction, but it really is the humility and just the happiness that's around this event. There's no real negativity with this event because we're there for Right. It's
It shouldn't
football.
be, right? There shouldn't be.
Right. It's football. So nobody's angry. We're going to hang out.
Maybe during the flag football competition, there's a little bit of
Yeah,
but that's to
exactly.
be expected. And in cornhole, I think I got pretty fired up at cornhole. But
yeah, you get a little competition that way involved, right? It brings out some other aspects of people. But and you can't even, like, when there's drafts, you can't get like that during draft because you don't have a tangible winner in a draft. You know, you learn that months later.
Until you get that nice little belt you have sitting there behind me, which I missed out again this year in the finals. But anyway, so talk about that experience, winning your first Kings Classic. I'm still trying for mine. To me, this is like, I told my wife, I go, there's a lot of things on my list, but number one to accomplish before I die is winning one of these damn belts.
Oh my gosh. It was funny because so there were no belts till like year 4, maybe year 3 or 4. They all came.
Yeah. Right.
And what happened was I hadn't won the league yet. And all of a sudden Trophy Smack's there and they're handing out all these trophies to people in our room.
These belts. Yeah.
I'm sorry, the belt. I'm sorry, I misspoke there. Right. And I'm thinking to myself, I have to win one of these. It was like this. I cannot. Yeah, if I can get it in my way, I cannot let this happen. I believe it was 21. Or was it, I can't remember if it was 21 or 20. I think it was 21 when you actually had Trophy Smack come out.
That's probably right because 2019, I don't think I knew who Trophy Smack was yet.
Yeah, and then 2020 was COVID.
Correct. So 21 or 22, one of those two. Yeah, it was probably the 21 season you won and then got it in 22.
Yes. So, right. I got it after that year when a bunch of people got them together, and I felt really, really lonely when about 8 people had belts, and I'm like, yeah. So that was the year, though, I actually did win, and it was the auction draft. And, it's funny. I went in with a philosophy on that draft, but what really happened was, look, I remember one line. When we walked out of there, on the way out there, a bunch of us, I said, you guys gave me Cooper Kupp for $25. He's going to be a top 5 receiver this year. And I got some looks. I undershot him by a mile. That was the Superman season. But like Christian Kirk went undrafted as soon as we left and it was in waivers open. I picked up Christian Kirk and he ended up with like a 900-yard season in Arizona. James Conner, I was in on the James Conner train. So I had a number of really, really big hits in that year because that's what you have to do. Ultimately, you need luck. Obviously, you need luck. You need enough injury luck because 14 clean leagues.
Yeah.
Yes, you gotta have injury luck. So there's no, nothing else there. But yes, it was a number of really big hits at cheap prices. But then we make it to the playoffs, and so I had the most points. I had the best record, and for me, I always have a special place in my mind when somebody wins a triple crown. Because there are teams, we've had teams at the Kings Classic had the fewest points in the league, 6th place.
Backed into the playoffs and won.
Backed into the playoffs and won. I'm like, okay, you won, but you got lucky. And it is what it is. It's fine. It's beautiful. You still won. You got your belt. But, all right. It was, but so the other side of the coin is there's a lot of people that have had great records or great points, and then they get bounced in the playoffs.
Yeah, right.
So it's when you can make it through. And so, getting that bye was great because the bye is huge. And I think I would have gotten outed if I had not had that bye. But so we make it through to the championship game, and I'm playing Dave Richard. Oh man. And man, Dave, what an awesome individual too, there's nothing personal ever when you're playing against Dave. It's not like, I don't want to beat Dave. My team wants to beat Dave's team, but I don't want to beat Dave. Dave's amazing.
If I'm going to lose, at least it's Dave, right? That's kind of what I was when I played against Mauricio in the finals. I'm like, well, yeah, I want to win, but I guess if I'm going to lose, Mauricio's such a cool dude. I'm okay with that.
So there's totally that. So now I'm the idiot, and this has been for years. I don't check any of my fantasy scores until Tuesday morning. Never check a score. Because look, how many leagues are we in? So let's say I've got Amari Cooper in this league. Well, he might be playing against me in another league. So I don't even look at the lineups of the people I'm playing. I don't want to know who I'm playing. I have none of that. And so I'm, all I did know that Dave Richard had Jamar Chase. I did know that from the early in the season. And so they were playing Kansas City, and I saw, I'm doing my work while the games are on, Jamar Chase had 55.6 points. And I'm thinking to myself, it's going to be a long day. Yeah. So, It's halftime of the late afternoon games. So East Coast, that's probably 5:30.
Right.
Again, my phone rings. All right. It's Dave. All right. What does Dave want? I'll answer it. He goes, congratulations. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, oh, you kicked my tail. I go, what? I don't check scores. And so we go through that little thing. And I go, you got Jamar Chase. And now I got to check the score because Dave called me and yeah, it wasn't even, the rest of his team didn't do a whole lot. Okay. And again, I had that lineup of players. My third flex type, they were hot all year.
Oh, wow.
So I sailed through. So I got the Triple Crown on that one. And that meant more to me than just winning a random title and something. That one meant a lot to me for that reason.
Yeah. I'll take my belt anyway and get it. I don't care.
Yes. Oh, yeah. No doubt. No, I would have done the same. I would have done the same.
I would love to have a Triple Crown, but I'd be just happy with getting one. But all right, so let's wrap this up. Let's just talk about RotoWire 2024. What do you guys got going on at the Expo this year? What's your plans? What's your focus? What's cool for people to come and stop by your booth for?
Yeah, definitely stop by the booth. I'm going to be there when I'm not on panels. Bob's gracious of let me on some panels. Steve Bouland, our marketing guy, is going to be there, and that's a great guy to catch up with because I tell you what, Steve knows all the ins and outs of the tools we have. We have this wonderful picks and prop app that's out now, and it'll get you numbers from multiple books. So like if you're going to bet these props, you also can use all the RotoWire projections within that. But the beauty is it'll show you the best price to shop. So for instance, you might get one at a plus 115, one at a plus 103. It helps you to identify so you can maximize your savings. So that's the big new thing we have.
Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a fun one. I think people are really going to like that a lot. And we just did launch our RotoWire Fantasy Football only YouTube channel. So this summer is going to be about promoting that. And obviously that's free, aside from, people subscribing to our site, but we're very excited about the new YouTube channel. We have a full-time video editor now on our team, which that's a great opportunity too, because the videos come out at a nicer quality, but we really think the people are going to enjoy it. We're going to have daily shows, but we got the shorts, we got the mid-range videos. Again, it's always a lot cooking at RotoWire, but those are the two kind of newer things.
Awesome. All right. Well, Jim, thank you again for being a part of the show. We, as always, appreciate you and RotoWire being a part of the Expo, the Kings Classic, and just supporting everything about in the fantasy industry. Tell everybody where they can find you, and then I'll take it out from there.
Easy to find me at Jim Coventry NFL. That's the easy place to go. All my stuff is like littered there, and then you can branch you elsewhere to the videos. And I do 2 stats of the day for fantasy football where I give a little actionable advice with those. Of course, RotoWire, you want a free trial? All we have to offer, 2 days, no credit card needed, just rotowire.com/Jim. Check it out.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you again, Jim, for being here. As always, I'm Bob Lung, the Fantasy Football Expo. Hey, if you wanted to get a booth, there's one left. I'm not joking. There's one booth left. Get your booth before they run out. Tickets are always there, but get them. Don't wait. That's always a problem too. People wait to the last minute. Get those tickets. Go to thefantasyfootballexpo.com. And of course, everything you want to follow is right after I click this. So for Jim Coventry, I'm Bob Lung. Take care. God bless.